Xavier, my good friend, thank you for being with me. It's always a pleasure to see you.
Thank you for inviting me, Ted.
My pleasure. We have a crazy world and a lot to talk about. It's a dangerous time. We have a warning to talk about. Would you like to talk about this warning?
Yes, indeed. Goodness. These past couple of months have been extremely eventful. I just came back at the beginning of last month of September from a 3-day conference with Father Michel Rodrigue in Los Angeles, in the foremost, I would say one of the foremost Marian center in the state of California. It was packed. We had hundreds of pilgrims who came not only from the four corners of the state of California, but from the four corners of the United States. It was massive. And there, Father Michel spoke for 3 days of some of the latest prophecies he received from our Lord, and to say his farewell to that particular Marian center. One of the things, indeed, that Father Michel informed the faithful regarding the warning is, in fact, that the warning is no longer years away, but months away. Now, for those particular members of your viewers that are not familiar with Father Michel, he is unquestionably, along with Conchita Gonzalez, the foremost authority on the warning. He's not a mere reporter or someone to claim to be a reporter or a writer. He is a person who lives the messages of our Lord directly, and who has lived them for many, many years, and who has received direct revelations about the warning. The information he's received has been copied, has been echoed throughout the world. We did an international show in June of this year. No, you'll remember, Ted, where Father Michel appeared, and before over 20 international channels, some of the biggest in the Marian circles on both sides of the Atlantic. No, and to that effect, Father Michel has received some pilgrims that came as far as Lima in Peru when we were in California. And a couple of them told them, well, look, Father, we came from Lima, Peru, to buy a refuge in North Carolina and would like your blessing. I interpreted from Spanish to English. And Father Michel looked down and said, no, you will not have time to build anything. You must buy something that is already prepared, that has a well or a source of drinkable water, and build and prepare your refuge accordingly, because you won't have the time to build anything. You won't even have time to start building. So if you're going to do something like that in North Carolina, buy something already built, because there is no more time. The warning is a question of months, not a question anymore of years. I just saw a couple of days ago an interview made by the spokesman, of another famous mystic and visionary from Brazil, another priest, Reverend Father Oliveira, whom my partner in my new podcast channel, Xavier Media, knows very well. No, Lucas is Father Oliveira's spokesperson. I spoke with him many times as well, and he came up. He declared in a podcast channel that is not particularly friendly with Father Michel. He declared, nevertheless, that Father Michel did receive the same messages as Father Oliveira, who doesn't speak a word of English or any other language besides Portuguese. Well, Father Michel only speaks French and a very poor English. No? So, and they've never spoken to one another. So these two priests appear to substantiate one another at the great displeasure of some people. But to that effect, events seem to be coming closer. And yes, we shall see in the very near future more revelations about the warnings for people to be able to prepare accordingly.
Well, there's a lot of things heating up. Is the election. I mean, I'm hoping that with the election of Donald Trump, if he gets elected, then all this this war drum activity would calm down. But I'm not sure about that. And what I'm concerned about is this message from Father Michel, who speaks about a peace conference that's coming up in the near future, which I think would probably involve President Donald Trump in this conference. And this message is grave. It says at this peace conference, or at this attempt for peace, there will be a prominent person who's murdered or assassinated. Um, that's a pretty scary prospect, because that would really light the match, wouldn't it?
Yes, and that again, it's something that it's quite odd, and it's very new, brand new news. We got this word towards the end of June, early July, where God the Father informed indeed Father Michel that there will soon be an alleged peace conference somewhere in Europe, so as to try to come up with a peace plan of sorts for the conflict in the European Union, in the European continent, rather. And that during this conference, an important, a prominent political person will be successfully assassinated. The assassination of this political party will cause a formal declaration of war of a country towards another. And France will play a major role in this particular scenario and will be one of the principal instigators of this formal war, which will expand within the European continent. So that is brand new news that we've received from Father Michel, who, when he announced this information, it was at the cost of a tremendous personal discomfort. And at the same time, he explained that when he was told of this revelation, he was shown some of the results of this particular war that's going to expand in the European continent to such an extent that he saw some cities destroyed, and it affected him to such an extent that he was not able to speak for 3 days. I know because when I called him back in his monastery in Amos, I spoke with his aide de camp, his right arm, right hand, who is Brother Philippe. And Brother Philippe told me that Father Michel was totally distraught. He was not he was not able to read the gospel during Mass. He had to, one of the brothers, Brother René, do it on his behalf. So, and when he announced to me in June, was it June the 15th? I don't remember. I think it was June the 15th or June the 16th. I was at the time in Montana visiting a refuge at the invitation of the owners with my family, my wife, my children, some friends of ours. That Father Michel called me. It was 6:30 in the morning. I was brushing my teeth. And it was 8:30 in the morning, Quebec time. And Father Michel was, I've never heard him speak to me on the telephone like that. He was emotionally affected. He was crossing blades, dead with himself. He was trying to control his emotions. Now, you have to understand French culture. For us Frenchmen, to show any kind of emotion is considered bad taste, weakness, is bad form. It's not correct. He was really fighting it. And I was telling him, Father, relax, control yourself. You're here with family. Do not feel embarrassed. Do not worry. He had difficulty breathing. He was emotionally affected. He told me that he saw the Blessed Virgin Mary in tears. He's never seen her in such a state, you know. And she was in totally distraught herself. And she explained that, and she was asking in June for at the time, very much like she did with the children, the visionary of Medjugorje, with I think it was Ivan, if my memory serves, or with Marija, I don't remember. But he was the version told Father Michel that she'd appeared to a few of the God's messengers to ask them all the same thing, the same request, a novena of rosaries for peace. But she told Father Michel with a broken heart that although it will be successful, it will not stop the war, the Third World War, but it will detain it somewhat. But that the consequences of man's sins, inhumanity, lack of compassion, lack of charity, lack of brotherhood, search and for glory, personal glory, will lead humanity to a disaster that has never been seen, of the likes that has never been seen in the world before. And then after the Virgin Mary disappeared, or rather before she disappeared, she said that she would come back a few days later to bring a public message to the world that will have to be revealed not before June the 27th. And then she disappeared, and then appeared the Holy Spirit. Now, Father Michel explained that in all his years, since he was 3 years old, even in the direst of circumstance, he's always seen the Holy Spirit a source of joy, of hope, of life. This was the first time he saw the Holy Spirit in a state of shambles, because the sadness that the Virgin Mary's distraught caused him. Father Michel was, I'm telling you, it was shocking. Father Michel is not a person who shows this kind of inner emotion. He has a laughter easy, yes. Father Michel has gone through quite a bit of an ordeal. He's been betrayed. He's been abandoned at the worst of times. And when those who supported him before were there, when everything went well, whenever the cameras were there, they were at his side, tapping his back, smiling from ear to ear. But immediately the rumors spread about falsehoods and accusations, calumniation, defamation came through. It was totally abandoned, very much like our Lord Jesus Christ himself. And incredibly enough, once he was exonerated, because he was, a full explanation was given, testimonies of people who were given. Those who betrayed him out of pride did not try to reconcile, to come forth, to give off a man and say, I'm sorry. No, I feel sorry for them. I really do. But he continues, despite ongoing criticism of people who do not forgive him for being right and put them in a bad light. He continues not being frightened to receive more strikes of sticks, disdain, accusation again, and all sorts of other mediocrities from other people who simply use any pretext to attack so that they don't have to just to say, I'm sorry, I was wrong. An extraordinary man, if I ever saw one. And as I said, I have at least the satisfaction of knowing that we have men like Father Oliveira, who support Father Michel, Father Dunn, an extraordinary American priest, who supports Father Michel, who admires him, or declared it openly in public, John Henry Weston, all the supporters of Father René Laurentin in Paris, who followed him, who follow him to this day, are behind Father Laurentin and are looking with a very bad eye all those who are trying to dishonor him, and who by trying to do so dishonor themselves. So, and when you think of what Father Michel has done, being 35 years of his life dedicated, ordained a priest, having invoked the presence of Christ on the holy sacrament of the altar, giving the absolution to all those who've asked him, having exorcised quantity of people, we're beginning to get a list of people who have had miraculous events taking place because of him. I'm thinking of opening a dossier like Father Laurentin did, and sending to the bishop there, who disavowed his messages. The bishop, and that is what now those poor devils are trying to use against Father Michel. He's been disavowed by his bishop. Those people who do so are supporting of Luisa Picaretta, who has been disavowed as well, went through a process of beatification, has been completely disavowed by various bishops as well. But that it's very convenient, they forget that. Or they try to promote a book that has been utterly condemned, not disavowed, condemned by the local bishop. I mean, the contradictions, the paradoxes are such. It's such a contradiction of Christianity. Instead of trying to reconcile, form a force, union, no? Like Michael Matt, my he's a very exuberant, but I like the man. Always calls all the Christians, unite the clans. I am sure you've heard it from the remnant. And he's brilliant. He's really, I like him immensely because he has courage and he has the right idea. Unite the different flows of Catholic ideas, even if we're not in agreement with everything that we all think about. He is pushing for everyone to forget the differences and to unite in strength together. Fortunately, it's a message that is not convenient for everyone to hear. I'm willing. I've offered to do that to various parties who simply give me as a response a simple sneer, which it's pity. It's pitiful. But you know that when I was working with Father Laurentin, and I'm sorry, I'm monopolizing the floor. I'm very long-winded. I always say that way.
No, please continue.
You're very kind.
It's fascinating. Please.
When I was working with Father Laurentin about 28 years ago, almost 30 years ago, I remember him as well being tired. He was much older than I. He was probably about 20, 23 years older than I am now. He was an older gentleman. We had 2 generations in distance between he and I at the time. He was immensely patient with me. And he accepted me, as I said, simply because we came from the same, you could say, social background. He did World War II. He put on the uniform when France called its sons to defend the nation against the German threat. No? My uncle was a Free French officer, a hero of the Free French Army. My grandfather was also a hero of World War I. He did the Battle of the Marne, the Battle of Verdun, the 2 battles of Verdun, the Battle of Les Chemins des Dames, which was an utter butchery. So he had an immense, I think he saw me as a duckling. He saw me a boy, a grandson of a fellow comrade, a nephew of a war brother. So he was kind of taking me under his wing, I think. But I remember seeing him as well, placed between petty arguments, between different foundations of different apparition sites from across the ocean. There was one, I'm not going to mention which 2 particular apparition sites were fighting like cats and dogs as to which one was most important in the eyes of God, which one was bringing the message of the Virgin Mary, which one was the continuation of Our Lady of Fatima. Imagine that. And I saw him sometimes trying to put peace between the parties. And sometimes when I met him in Paris and we went for dinner, he was so tired. He told me sometimes, I remember once he told me, I am too old for this. I am too old for this. So much mediocrity. And today when I see what is happening amongst us Catholics with different podcasts, when we should do everything we can to help one another, the rivalry is such a level of mediocrity. The accusation of being clickbaits or some foreign Catholic channels as well, who used to support Father Michel, now totally turns against him, and not for the right reasons. And I'm not going to go into it because it would be too many clues, and I would immediately point out to the parties at hand. I just wish, because there is good in everyone, And even the American podcast that used to support Father Michel, that totally abandoned him. Totally didn't even give him the courtesy of a microphone for him to defend himself. No. Where I come from is called being a Judas. I know it sounds harsh. It's the reality. And to this day, whenever I see one of these members speak in other podcasts without mentioning Father Michel, but making insinuations, clear insinuations about him, and the host, who claims as well to be a follower and admirer of Father Michel, saying, oh, yes, yes, and the point is very clear. Even in the comments, it's clear. And the host of the shows do not come to the rescue of poor Father Michel. I can't help but thinking and remembering what Father René Laurentin, when I was working with him, used to say, Xavier, calme-toi, c'est un bon signe. Which means in French, Xavier, calm down. All these are only but good signs. For indeed, everything that is from God will be attacked. No?
Yeah.
Forgive me, I'm kind of venting, as you Americans say in your channel. I hope I'm not going too far. I'm not putting you in a awkward position.
No way. It's healthy to vent. Good for you. It's good for your blood pressure, Xavier. But
yes,
but I can understand your frustration. I mean, look, I had the honor to meet Father Michel on that webcast that we did a couple of months ago. I was part of that that live broadcast. Now I thought I was really impressed by him, and all the evidence points to him being a saint, and everything you're saying talks about a lot of resistance to him from the powers that be. But isn't that the way it goes with saints? They're not accepted in their lifetime, or they're pushed back against, or they're ridiculed. Could this be the case with Father Michel?
unquestionably. You know what is remarkable, Ted, is that on many instances, I even offered Father Michel's detractors in French, in English, and in Spanish to have a cordial exchange with me in public and live. No Anglo-Saxon accepted my invitation. No Spaniard accepted, or Spanish-speaking person accepted my challenge. There was only one who accepted, and he was a Frenchman. And I regret to say it turned out to his disfavor. It was, on my part, I was extremely cordial, and he got a lot of criticism because he was not able to keep his cool. But he was the only one who accepted my invitation to a cordial exchange. Cordial, because I'll tell you one thing. I've said this before. Before being a Frenchman, I'm first and foremost Catholic. So any American Catholic, whether detractor or sympathizer of Father Michel or not, is a compatriot of mine. No? At least this is the way I see things. The same goes with the Spanish-speaking people. No one has dared to face me and to have a cordial exchange. Unlike most of the detractors, no, unlike all of the detractors of Father Michel, I have a tremendous advantage. First of all, I've got the formation that I received 30 years ago from Father René Laurentin, which led me, contrary to all the detractors of Father Michel, to have taken a ticket, plane ticket, to travel up north all the way 4,000 kilometers, 4,000 kilometers north from my home to meet Father Michel in his own monastery and see with my own eyes. Speak with him with a critical eye, speak with the monks he works with, speak with the lay people who were witnesses to that particular event, which clearly demonstrated the controversy involving the two popes' death, which was principally the cornerstone of the people who criticized him. No? I spoke with the people who saw him fall in ecstasy on December the 28th, 2022, where God the Father told Father Michel that Pope Benedict XVI, Emeritus, who was not yet dying, would never see the year 2023 and would die on the 31st of December of the same year. I spoke with all of them. There were about 47, 48 people together there. I probably interviewed 25 people individually when I went there. Can my detractors say the same thing? Let me answer you in advance. No. No due diligence. When you attack, accuse somebody of something without evidence, where I come from, it's called calumniation and defamation. I took the trouble to spend money and time, go there, far, far away, to investigate with my own eyes with the same protocol that Father Laurentin used to use himself in investigation of Betania in Venezuela, which was approved, San Nicolas, Argentina, which was approved, Quibejo, which was investigated by Laurentin and approved, in Soufanier, which was approved by the local bishop and investigated by Father Laurentin, etc., etc., etc. None of these people did the same effect. They jumped in what the Americans call the bandwagon and immediately assumed the worst before assuming the best, or giving him the shadow of the doubt. In other words, all these people made themselves the judge, the jury, and the executioner of Father Michel without any evidence other than people's stupidity and hearsay. I have, or at least, the advantage of knowing Father Michel personally. I know what kind of man he is. He's a man who is consumed with one and only one ambition, to serve God and save as many souls as possible. The cornerstone of his teaching is this. And please, if I go on too long, we are friends, Dad. Interrupt me, please. And your viewers will ask you to.
I will.
But the principle, the cornerstone of Father Michel's apostolate, you could call, is simply this: bringing people to the faith, inviting them to do what God the Father has taught him to do, live their lives in accordance with Holy Scriptures, the Gospels of our Lord Jesus Christ, the Gospel of the New Testament, with catechism, with the dogma of the faith, which neither man nor angel can change, the deposit of the faith, and to live our lives in accordance with all the sacraments of the Catholic and Apostolic Church, principally regular confession, monthly confession if at all possible, preferably on first Saturdays of every month, and if you can, daily communion and adoration of our Lord Jesus Christ present in the Holy Eucharist. But communion in a state of grace, and communion after receiving the absolution of God through a priest at confession. Now, for all the detractors of Father Michel, who say he's not, we don't want to follow him because he's been disavowed by the bishop or because of the false prophecies, etc., etc. I am addressing them now through your channel to all of them. You are all in very bad company. I prefer to be in the company of somebody who preaches exactly the teachings, the cornerstone of our faith, than those who attack him for being manipulated by Satan. For one must be aware that of the existence of the reality of Satan, as the Virgin gave proof to the children of Fatima. No? So I prefer to be in the company of men like Father Michel, who sponsor continuously, even at the cost of his own person and reputation, this very truth which form the cornerstone of our faith, than all those who fall into the mediocrity of accusing somebody without evidence, using for pretext to justify the unjustifiable, the disavowal not of a man, but of his prophecies, made by the Bishop of Amos. A disavowal which has been issued from nothing, simply because, and the truth was because, and I called the Archdiocese of Amos, because they were exhausted of receiving a tsunami of phone calls from the four corners of the world asking the bishop, is this true? Is this true? Is this true? They had enough. There's been no investigation. And I tell you this from personal experience, having worked with Father Laurentin, with Archdiocese, in an investigation process of one particular apparition case at the side of Father Laurentin. No bishop can declare, disavow, or condemn any alleged apparition site without a formal investigation, episcopal investigation, having taken place originally by the episcopate. Furthermore, let it be clear there's been no condemnation or order of silence against Father Michel. Why? I'm asking all those abroad, outside the United States, who continue to attack or make insinuation, calumniation, and defamation of all sorts, why haven't they given the order to Father Michel to be quiet, an order of silence? You are incapable to answer why. Because there is no answer. He's not been condemned. He is authorized to celebrate Mass. He is authorized to listen and give absolution, to listen to confessions. This is the man that has been betrayed. This is the man that is being calumniated. And this is the man that is nevertheless supported by men of the caliber of Father Don, of Father Oliveira, and enough other visionaries that are supported and approved, not approved, but supported by the local bishops and Mexican cardinals in the local countries where they are from, and by the supporters of Father René Laurentin, who've observed him from afar, from the other side of the Atlantic, and who recognize in him a man of the cloth, a fellow man of the church. Shame. Shame on all those who fall into the trap of calumniation and defamation and cowardice, because others also did promise their support, and at the last moment they bailed out for being cowards.
Yeah.
Forgive me,
And
I'm
this,
going very strong, but I'm telling the
no,
truth.
no. I'm with you all the way. It seems to me that this um, this controversy started because he made a wrong prediction about the death of Pope Benedict the 13th. Is that the crux of the whole matter?
Quite so. What happened was I believe it was in 2019, if memory serves, that Father Michel received a message from God the Father stating that in the time of the future, when there will be a conflict in Europe, Rome will be overtaken, and Pope Francis will try to flee and will be captured and killed before Pope Emeritus Benedict XVI. According to the same prophecy given to Father Michel, Pope Emeritus Benedict XVI would then try to gather the church and try to put order and would try to flee as well. According to that prophecy, he would be captured as well, and he would die like Pope Francis, a martyr. Both popes would die martyrs, but Benedict would die after Pope Francis. This particular prophecy was spread throughout the world. It went, viral. From the Philippines to the island of Madagascar, to South America, all the way to Alaska, from France to the Polynesian islands of Tahiti, everywhere, and with the original subtitles. Millions of faithful heard of this prophecy from across the world. This is how I met, or rather, this is how I knew of Father Michel myself, by listening to this series of that were propagated by this American podcast that was supporting Father Michel. And I thought I had immense sympathy for this American channel because they were being used as a heavenly instrument. But at first I was perplexed.
Yeah.
When I heard Father Michel talk about all these prophecies that were catastrophic in some instances, but always with a laughter and a smile, I thought this man is either a madman or he's brilliant. And then quickly enough, I thought to myself, he's brilliant.
Yeah.
He's able to project a message of utmost gravity with the warmth of laughter, of humor, which gave somewhat a sense of hope, because it was always accompanied with a message of hope, what we can expect to save our souls, to survive, what we can expect after all this tragedy, this purification to come. I thought it was brilliant.
Yeah. Well, you heard of him by seeing interviews. You actually went in search of him. You found his contact information, and you called him in Canada and introduced yourself, right? Isn't that how you got together?
Yes, exactly. This came after the controversy came about. When I heard, like everybody else, that Pope Benedict XVI died on I think it was December 31st, 2022, and Father Michel announced that he would die after Pope Francis. I thought to myself, last it all, what happened here? What happened? It's a prophecy that did not take place. And I was wondering what the heck happened. And then I thought to myself, well, surely the people of this American podcast will let him speak and he will explain himself. There's got to be an explanation. But it never occurred to me to attack him or to insult him or to try to stain the honor of a man who has served the church so faithfully for so many decades. No, I thought it never even crossed my mind. So I was waiting, and the days became weeks dead, and the weeks became months, and nothing.
Mm-hmm.
All of a sudden, that website, that American website that was supporting Father Michel, along with a series of other visionaries around the world, including Medjugorje, whom I can tell you have been defamed as well, to the day, to this day. To this day, I know I was working with Father Laurentin when Father Laurentin was defending those visionaries, when they were accused of all sorts of opportunism and taking advantage of the people and taking their money and blah, 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 blah. Much graver things than what they've accused Father Michel. I don't know. All of a sudden, they were men of the cloth in Spanish-speaking countries, in English-speaking countries that began to attack Father Michel, calling him a false prophet. That the man was not authentic, how that God never gives through his prophets false prophecies, which is rubbish. You know, lesson 101 that I learned from Father René Laurentin, dead. He used to tell me there are two different kinds of prophecies that God sends to the world through his prophets. Number one, there is what God calls, what Father Laurentin used to call a divine decree. For instance, when it is declared on Holy Scriptures that God will have his son through, or rather, the birth of the Son of God will come through a virgin, a maiden, virgin. That's something that is not meant to change. It is a divine decree. Prophecy, on the other hand, is when something is declared for one purpose and one purpose only, to be changed. Father Laurentin used to say the nature of prophecy is exactly that, to be changed. Nineveh is a perfect example, among others. Fatima, if you want to use something more contemporary, the version was very clear when she appeared to Lucia dos Santos, Jacinta, Francisco. She told them, unless, using the conditional tense in Portuguese, unless humanity converts and returns to my son, there will be a second world war worse than the first one. Unless humanity converts and returns to my son, Russia will spread its errors around the world on the conditional tense. Unlike those detractors, by the way, as well, I speak, read, and write in many languages, French, English, and Spanish, perfectly. That helps. And one of the things that I learned from Father Laurentin, never jump to false conclusions before having all the evidence, all the factors and the points of facts in front of you. And do not fall under the trap of judging or condemning, because that is a contradiction in the first place from being Catholic. Surely you will tell me, yes, but what are you doing towards those whom you claim have accused Father Michel? I'm defending Father Michel by saying the truth. Didn't Christ die for the truth? Wasn't he the truth? And I'm telling the truth. I have nothing to gain. I'm exposing myself as well for criticism from being guilty of the unforgivable crime of defending an innocent man. If you know what, if that's the case, I'd rather live on my knees for defending a man who is innocent than live on my feet unjustly and accusing unjustly an innocent man. Forgive me, I'm going overboard, but
Xavier,
I am
your passion
revolted.
is
I'm scandalized.
your passion is obvious. You're justifiably angry. I would be. He's a friend of yours, and he's being criticized, and he's so good. He's so humble. He has such a good nature. It's so easy for him to laugh. You know, I enjoyed that webcast. I'm sure there are healings taking place up in Canada. I just hope that you know his prophecies, you know, God forbid some of them come true, may help people prepare, because we don't know if these predictions are set in stone. I remember Father Michel saying that the attack on the United States that could come is going to be mitigated because so many Americans are saying the chaplet. So as you said,
Sure.
the prophecy is not, it's not set in stone. It can be changed by God and by our prayer. Is that right?
That's very, very true. Yes, that particular prophecy you're referring yourself to involved it involves a nuclear attack that came upon the United States. They were, memory serves, he foresaw. He was taken and he was able to see the world from a point of view from space. And he saw 13 smoke trajectory or jets or sets, lines that were coming towards the United States, 13. A sort of mystical hand pushed away 6 of them. And only 7 reached their target. And he saw 7 bright lights touch the ground and cause this enormous luminosity. And then he heard the voice of God the Father telling him, America has been somewhat protected because America prays the chaplet of divine mercy. In August of last year, 2013, it was the time when I went to the monastery of Father Michel in Quebec. It was quite a journey, I don't mind telling you. And just before I left, he told me, God the Father told me that the tribulations will begin on October of this year. And Brother Philippe, his right hand, told me, Father Michel said that God the Father told him it would begin on October the 7th, that tribulation will begin. That was given to me in August of 2023, September, October, 2 months before the Hamas attack.
Yes, you called me weeks before and said don't travel in October.
Yes, you remember that.
Yes.
And that was why, because Father Michel said in October the tribulations will begin, and it will be on October the 7th, he told Brother Philippe.
Right.
And we all know what happened on October the 7th. And Father Oliveira, by the way, I learned months later, or Lucas received the same message from God the Father. So this indeed happened. There are other things that he mentioned. For instance, that there would be attempts on Donald Trump's life. And since he said that, and I have proof, I wrote it in 2017 in my book. And it
Yes,
happened.
I have it. Oh, it's behind me. Wish I could find it. I have to unplug myself.
Ah, don't worry.
Okay. I think I even marked it, but I sent a picture of it to you on July 13th when they made the assassination attempt. I had it highlighted because you did talk about that attempted assassination in the book.
Yes. So, and he told me things on a personal nature that no one could know. So, as I said, Father Michel is one of the kindest, because to this day he continues to pray for those who try to do him harm and wish him the worst. He prays for them. What is incredible is when we discuss, even he and I am sometimes, it appears, sometimes I'm more revulsed and more scandalized than he is. And he said, Xavier, pray for them because they do not know what they do, and they do not know the harm they cause themselves. No, and it makes me sometimes realize that this man has more unstudied nobility, unstudied charity. It's spontaneous with him. He forgives. He doesn't condemns. I mean, no, I'm trying to maintain a certain objectivity, even criticism in some instances, the way Father Laurent always tried to teach me, telling me, always keep always a bit of a distance and observe, watch, listen. I do that, but that man keeps on surprising me by him, by the kindness of his heart, by not caring to expose himself again to more criticism, by announcing and continuing bringing forth those messages. He says always, those prophecies do not belong to me. If it were up to me, if I were free to do what I want to do, I would stay in my convent, in my monastery, and live the rest of my days in peace. Doing my masses, leave my faith. But God has given me these prophecies, these instructions. I must obey. It does not belong to me. He continues to expose himself to the bitterness and to the harshness and criticism of his detractors. I think that's quite remarkable. It's quite an
Yeah.
experience.
Well, you're a soldier at heart. That's why you get so riled up when you talk about him, because you want to protect him. And as you said, you mentioned that you get more angry at his criticizers than he does at them. So I can
I'm just
understand.
allergic. I'm just allergic to stupidity and
Mm,
meanness. And
mm,
I'm allergic to that. I've never learned to respond well to this kind of mediocrities. I've never learned. Unfortunately, it's not at my age of 55 that I'm going to learn now. But I try to find a bit of humor everywhere.
yeah, I know you do. It's very good. What else do we have on the menu? Is there something you want to close with? Maybe Medjugorje
Well,
talking about
yes, we had
we
at least one good piece of news about
yeah.
Medjugorje and Garabandal from the Vatican, whereas, thank God, they have not condemned either Medjugorje or Garabandal. That's in itself quite an exploit. However, we're not to confuse rather a non-condemnation with an approval. I was discussing this with Bishop Strickland a couple of days ago. I just came back from the Roman Forum in Exile, led and organized by John Henry Weston and the LifeSite News channel in Kansas City in Missouri. And where I had the immense privilege to meet and know and become friends with His Excellency Bishop Strickland. And I was honored by being one of those principal speak or talkers on that particular conference. And we were talking about this new protocol that Cardinal, His Eminence Cardinal Fernandez has come up with the co-signature Pope Francis, whereas he states now that the highest level of in the status and recognition process of an alleged apparition site is the famous nihil obstat, which, by the way, when I was working with Father Laurentin, the nihil obstat was
Mm,
the third status highest in the scale of statuses for approved for recognition process of apparition sites. So they were raised the status of being worthy of belief. They do not recognize the divine origins of alleged apparition sites, and they do not recognize any sort of supernatural nature that might come from any alleged apparition site. Goodness gracious, I'm thankful to God that Betania was approved in the 80s because they had a Eucharistic miracle there, which in the event it would have taken place under the administration of Cardinal Fernandez in the Dicasterium of the Doctrine of the Faith. Oh, no, they would have ignored that as being just a detail, no? Or Fatima, they would have said, oh, it probably was an hallucination, the miracle of the sun. God knows what kind of rubbish they would have come up with. But I can tell you one thing, Father Laurentin must return in his grave. But the good news was Medjugorje was not condemned. Garabandal was not condemned. To say that now they're allowing pilgrimage to go to Medjugorje, it's a lie. Because now Medjugorje was always permitted to be a pilgrimage place. That's no lie. That's just a lie. There's one thing, though. They've placed an observer now in Medjugorje, who, from what I've heard, is very friendly and pro Medjugorje. But his mission is to prohibit the public publication of messages coming to the visionaries, through the visionaries of Medjugorje, to the public before it gets disseminated and analyzed by the Dicasterium of the Doctrine of the Faith in Rome. if it doesn't mean with the approval, or if it is considered contradictory to the current political direction of the Vatican, it will not be allowed. The question that comes to mind is this, and I know Father Laurentin would have asked this as well. First of all, this statement of Nihil Obstat was premature, because the 10 secrets of Medjugorje, my dear friend Ted, they've not been revealed yet.
Right. Didn't one of the visionaries receive a physical parchment with the messages on it from the Blessed Mother? It's
Yes,
amazing.
and given, it's amazing, and given to a priest of her choice, who is Father Petar. But let me ask you a question. I'd like to have your opinion on this, Ted, because you're a man that is very lucid, very composed, and very thoughtful. But let me ask you this. What would happen, hypothetically speaking, mon ami, if one of those 10 secrets is a repetition of part of the secret of La Salette, which, by the way, La Salette has been formally approved by her local bishop in Grenoble and by the Dicasterium of the Doctrine of the Faith in the Vatican in 1851. So my question to you is this. What if the 10 secrets of Medjugorje is a repetition of one of the mysteries, of the secrets, of La Salette, and would say, my children, pray for the Catholic Church, for the day will come when Rome will fall and will lose the faith. And when the day will come that an Antichrist will sit on the seat of St. Peter. I'm asking you, if hypothetically speaking, if one of the 10 secrets of Medjugorje says exactly an echo of one of the secrets of La Salette, in your opinion, mon cher ami, what do you think will be the reaction of the congregation of the Doctrine of the Faith and the Cardinal Fernandez? What do you think?
Well, it would prove all the other messages were also true, and all the lights in the house would go on at once.
You think that Cardinal Fernandez will tolerate that language?
No, I don't think so. I think what's happening here, Xavier, is censorship. Fernandez is there to censor the Blessed Mother. That's what I'm hearing from you.
Exactly. And according to the Vatican, they just declared a new kind of sin, a sin against the synod, or the idea of synodality, which is open discussion. So by their own admission, they are condemning themselves of a new sin they themselves had declared to be so. It's a contradiction. There is no order, no head, no tail, no north, no south. It's complete disorder. That's why
these
I, for one,
synods.
wait.
These synods. They confuse me. To me, they are the equivalent of think tanks. These organizations have think tanks. These non-governmental organizations have think tanks. It doesn't seem spiritual or prayerful or thoughtful. It just seems like people scheming.
Or
Is that what's
Catholic.
happening?
Yes, it's not even Catholic anymore. It used to be that synods used to be exclusively gatherings of Catholic bishops. No longer. We are there, lay people. We have there Protestants. We have there Anglican priests who participate. What are they doing there? What on earth are they doing there? I'll finish simply by saying this, and I said this in the Roman forum of John Henry Wesson, who is very much like you. I consider him like you, one of a very dear friend of mine, like you, Ted. And I'll finish by saying what I said in a few days ago in Kansas City. I'll continue to call all the faithful to pray for Pope Francis, that the Holy Spirit illuminates him, keeps him, and all the bishops and cardinals who protect him. I'll continue to remain faithful to the magisterium of the Catholic Church and under the wing of the Catholic Church, unquestionably. Should the liturgy of the consecration of the Eucharist be touched And should they attempt to change that and make it invalid? No longer. Because by doing so, if they were to do such a thing, they would excommunicate themselves de facto. And in that case, I will no longer follow a hierarchy that is no longer one. The church will never be overtaken by Satan. Our Lord Jesus Christ promised that much. But do remember, Catholic Church, mon ami, is you. It is I. It is all the faithful that are watching and listening to us right now, or in a future time when this will be shown live or later or recording. No, we are the Catholic Church. At the end, we will see the triumph of the Immaculate Heart of Mary. But every Catholic should remain faithful to the holy sacraments of the Eucharist, the sacrament of confession, catechism, particularly that was sponsored by John Paul II, the dogma of the faith that cannot be changed, the deposit of the faith, the Gospels. We don't need apparition sites to save our souls. Our salvation is in the Gospels, in the teachings of Jesus Christ, in the Gospels and in the teachings of the Roman Catholic and Apostolic Church. That's the corner. Not every religion leads to God. That's not true. That is a violation of the first 10 commandments. You will not have other gods before me. The only way to salvation, the only way to God is through Jesus Christ. Period. And that is no subject to interpretation. Anyone who says anything else, we must pray for him. I pray for Pope Francis and for all those who follow him. I pray that God keep him and illuminate him and remain loyal and faithful to the magisterium of the church unless this condition I just stated is met, which I hope it will never be. And I thank you that I've abused of your time. I hope by being so vehement, I've not placed you in an uncomfortable position.
You're the greatest, man. I love you. You're a good friend.
And
It's
you.
always a pleasure. We'll have
Thank
to
you.
stay in touch. We'll keep our lines open, Xavier, and keep abreast to the news, and we'll communicate again real soon. Okay.
Hi. Thank you
You want
very
to
much
say
for your kind invitation.
thanks? You want to say a Hail Mary in Latin to conclude?
Oh, yes, with all my heart. In nomine Patri, et Filio, et Spiritui Sancto, Ave Maria, gratia plena, Dominus tecum, benedicta tu in mulieribus, et benedictus fructus ventris tui, Iesus. Sancta Maria, Mater Dei, et Mater Nostrae, ora pro nobis peccatoribus, nunc et in hora mortis nostrae. Amen. Thank you, Ted.